What an oversold bag of marketing garbage.
Did you say it's a Chevy? Did you say Monte Carlo? Tell me, how fast does it go?
When the laser archaeologists of 3151 discover the nexus of early 21st century hype boson particles, they'll discover this. The 2004 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS Dale Earnhardt Jr. Special Edition. A clear-coated turd of a car produced to be collective and rare right from the factory. The real Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove a dedicated tube-frame race car that has no relation to this General Motors W platform two-door four-seat passenger car. The W platform existed for 29 years, from 1987 all the way to 2016 with various updates along the way. The W platform birthed many vehicles, all suitable for driving to a coin-op laundry and getting into a shoving match over a dropped quarter. All the while, your Monte Carlo sits out front, keys in it, a massive keychain, multiple key rings. Every key you've ever had is on it. Multiple lanyards, shoppers club cars, LED bullshit with dead batteries, little stuffed animals. You want this keychain to take up more volumetric capacity than a fish stringer full of sunnies. And you want all that weight pulling on the ignition barrel, bending it so it's nice and ruined. 6th generation Montes, the official cars of never turning off. I swear, I never see these uncouth kegerator... Chevrolet Monte Carlo, the official car of owning a kegerator on your bucket list. Brought to you by answering a phone call with, "Yeah," instead of, "Hello." Chevy Monte Carlo, the official car of taking one last drag from a cool cigarette, holding it in, flicking the butt away, walking inside Ace Hardware, and exhaling only when the automatic doors close behind you. Teacher said I wouldn't become nothing, but look at me now. Got me a Monte Carlo. Got me a prepaid phone. Got me a 3-digit bank balance. I let my Monte Carlo run whenever I park. You know you're the man. I'm the man. I can afford it. Only it's a V6, so it goes. A Monte Carlo is a strange artifact of automotive history. For a brief period in the early 2000s, after the Pontiac Grand Prix was discontinued, this was the largest domestic two-door coupe. This. It's got 6 generations, and from that alone, you'd think this was something more people would talk about. Some of them do, but it almost feels like this car got tucked away in a little corner of the automotive conversation. I mean, unless you had one of the classic earlier models or the boxy ones, you paint them black, they sort of look like Grand Nationals, but maybe it's something like this, a more contemporary model with an upgraded package with a long name and endorsed branding. Also, you can hit the road and tear so much ass you'll have to see a doctor about the fissure. Luckily, this is exactly that trim. The correct full name is the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Signature Series Supercharged SS. And out of the 2,883 units produced, this is model number 7. The Dale Earnhardt Jr. Signature Series Supercharged SS comes with a General Motors L67 V6 with an Eaton M90 supercharger, which was also available in the 6th generation Pontiac Grand Prix and the Buick Regal GS. You get 240 horsepower from factory and 280 torque at the crank. Jen bought this at 49,000 miles, and now it's currently at 120,000 miles. This car was originally a dealer demo. The first owner only put 5,000 miles on it. The second owner, interestingly enough, loved the car, but hated what it stood for. When Jen bought this, the signature headrests were missing because the second owner hated Dale Earnhardt Jr. so much he ripped them all out. Apparently, he only bought the car because it was cheap. And even he said so much in his listing of the car, so that no one got the idea he actually supported Dale Jr. In fact, the previous owner hated NASCAR. He said stuff in the ad like, just so you know, I don't like NASCAR. I only bought this car because it was a good deal. Don't talk to me about NASCAR. Don't talk to me about Dale Earnhardt. I hate all of it. Here's my price. 2004 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. It's the sports memorabilia room your uncle never lets you enter. Which kind of makes sense, since this began life as Chevy's variant of the Pontiac Grand Prix, eventually being marketed as the brand's first personal luxury car. Back in the day, it was a pretty beefy coupe in its first 4 generations. Got a bit boxier in the 80s, took a break from 1988 to 1995, and then returned with a more rounded, Malibu-esque look for its 5th generation. Sort of like a quarterback who lets himself go after a bad summer breakup, and now they have to move him to the offensive line for senior year. The 6th generation was the race-inspired generation, as Chevrolet looked to General Motors Motorsports for assistance in the design stage. And that's how you end up with a car named after Dale Earnhardt Jr. And back in 2004, classic cars were still peaking at Mecum and Barrett-Jackson auctions, which was a further incentive for dealers hitching their caboose to that train. And it worked. Marks saved up for these bedazzled hype boxes with Dale Jr.'s signature recreated on every surface. But now it's 2020, and these cars in the collector market, oh boy, I'm seeing them on Bring a Trailer, and the auctions are closing for almost $5,000. What an investment! What a pile of garbage! Well, what a fast pile of garbage. For a W body, it moves. Oh, there's where it pulls. There's where it pulls. General Motors said these cars are governed at 120 miles an hour, but Jen, the owner, saw a GPS 125 before she ran out of straight track. The 2004 Chevrolet Monte Carlo Dale Earnhardt Jr. Special Edition was not meant to race. It overheats. It understeers like a rental Nissan Versa. The front tires scream like a piggy boy getting out of line and running away from a roller coaster, saying, I've changed my mind, I've changed my mind, I've changed my... But Jen is the parent, grabbing the kid and speaking sternly through her teeth. You are not embarrassing me today. You are getting on Pocono Raceway. You are named after a champion. You are going to race. So Jen told me that she was screeching into a corner at 110 miles an hour, temp gauge above normal, supercharger whining, and all the pit guys were screaming, do it for Dale! Do it for Dale! Do it for Dale! Do it for Dale! So she pulls in after her time trial, applause everywhere, general smoke coming out from everywhere, plugs in a scan tool, transmission temp sensors, just says nope. So get some fans, get some bags of ice, because in 40 minutes she's gonna send it. And 2 transmissions later, here we are. Jen drove this car at places like Lime Rock, the Poconos, Summit Point, and Club Motorsports in New Hampshire. The car looks light, but drives heavy. Or as Jen says, it's a pig. But over the years, she's done plenty of modifications, including an exhaust intake and downpipe, adjustable shocks, Camaro F-body calipers, and lowering springs. The car came with an SLP performance exhaust installed by the previous owner. But Jen had to go to salvage yards for trim parts like kick panels or anything cosmetic. She previously owned a Bonneville and a 93 Buick Regal and had been looking for an 04 Impala before she found this, looked at it and thought, yep, I'm gonna rock this. But it's also one of those cars that, because of its branding, generates an instinctual reaction in some people. The sentimentality of weekends at Terry Hill Water Park, but also something more melancholy, especially if you're on the track. Because the name Earnhardt still means a lot to people, regardless of how people feel about the family. They're icons of their profession. But name recognition couldn't stop this car from being discontinued. And yet, even after the car was discontinued to focus more on the Camaro and the Corvette, it still has a decent but very niche following. The kind of people who insist this is a gem, that the value is going to go up someday. It's a forgotten classic. It's Eraserhead the car. But I don't see these prices ever rising. If anything, this car is an ode to the enduring relevance of the obsolete. Yeah, you could get a Camaro, but while you might get performance in the bargain, you're trading away the scrappy charm of the Monte Carlo, a car that was born of luxury ambition and died a pauper's death, sung into the grave by a Scorpion cover band singing Danny Boy as the lead singer pisses himself. It's the car for that neighbor whose favorite number is whatever stretch of highway he just came off of, and whose favorite story to tell at parties is about the work zone he had to get through to get here. This is the car for a man who huffs bowling shoe spray and wears a t-shirt that proudly reads,
"Eating ass, don't knock it till you try it."
2004 Chevrolet Monte Carlo Open Container Music Festival Special Edition. The official car of your stepdad, Wayne, who has pizza and pussy tattooed on his left hand so he can point to it with his right hand anytime your mom asks what he wants to eat for dinner.
Okay, I don't have the first idea what to rap about for a Monte Carlo review. Does the name come from Norway or is it from Monaco? You know what, never mind. Let's just do this. Monte Carlo in the house like a news show. It don't need to act all good like a blue-nosed gonzo, but I'm not a Hunter S Pro though. Slow-mo, Roman got the Hunter S flow though. His pen was a doorway. Fjord Motor Company, we fresh out of Norway. No, the name is Monacan Drive. This, or like Chris will be walking and we'll feel like the show Steve Harvey's on. Hardly wrong. The Carlo's only partly gone. 120,000 miles and the heartbeat's on. In the M90 that you don't pronounce Eton. My mind is fermenting like a Gonza mullet, cause my brain's going under like a C-lab. Call me diacritic, cause I'll maybe diacritic. You can find me over E like I never needed rehab. That was just a cute line, really more a cute line. Can't get the accent on my keyboard. Maybe I should Google it and maybe learn to read more. Like a Monte Carlo, maybe learn not to preach more. Maybe find the time to do the doc about the speed more. Maybe get my car not to leak through the heat core. Get a Monte Carlo so my neighbor talks to me more. Maybe find a therapist to teach me not to need more. But that's a pretty tall order for anybody.